Hey, let's get started on today's Conjure Live. I have some goodies for you today. And before we actually get started, what I'd like to do is share with you a couple of things. But before we do that, let's invite the ancestors in. It's always great to start by welcoming them in our space, in our room, inviting them in. And one of the ways to do that is by calling out their names. Just take a moment and drop in the chat the name of an ancestor or ancestors that you'd like to have join us today, that you'd like to receive some guidance from and some support. Let's invite them in, invite them in. Who are they? Who would you like to invite in? I'm going to invite my grandmother Gladys and Annie Mae into the room. My maternal and paternal grandmothers, Granny and Gram. And I'm going to invite my Auntie Candy to join us. Who would you like to invite? Which ancestor? Just name the ancestor. Give them, share with us who you'd like to have. If you're on Zoom, drop it in the chat. If you're on Facebook, drop it in the comments. I'll come back and look later and just welcoming those two. Susie said, Susie, your maternal grandmother, beautiful. My dad, George, nice, nice. Yeah, now that you said that, you know what? I think we need to bring my dad, Robert, into the group too. Let's bring him in. Your maternal grandmother, good. Your mom, yeah, and your auntie-in-law too. And Jaylee, I may not have it right, but we're welcoming everyone in. Grandma Bessie, cousin Zenobia, Donna, Grandma, yes. Right. Welcome. Well, thank you to the ancestors for joining us here today. Thank you for those that have been invited. And for those who we didn't name, we welcome you too if you're our loving and kind ancestors that are here to guide us on our path and support us on this journey. We welcome you. We welcome you. Thank you. Thank you. Before we begin, I wanted to share with you a book that I've been reading that I thought was really good. So I wanted to, let's see, are we going to be able to do that? Probably not with my blurred screen. Nope, the screen is okay. So it's called The Conjuring of America, and it's by Lindsay Stewart. And it's a really, really good book about what conjuring is about, where it really began, and about the conjure women that were here to support us and guide us and help us in a variety of ways. And it'll also tell you, it gives a lot of really good history, a history about Vicks Vapor Rub and how there were conjure women that actually created that. And then someone who was really, really ill, the one who's given the credit for creating it, was very ill. He basically took the formula and created into Vapor Rub. And then there's also information about where mojo came from. A lot of people, when they say, get your mojo back, or I got my mojo back, don't realize that they're conjuring at that point. There's some really good information in there. So the name of the book is Conjuring of America by Lindsay Stewart. Really good book. You can even follow her on Facebook if you're on Facebook. I also want to remind you that we have two more spaces for Conjure Wisdom sessions. These are sessions that I opened up over the last few weeks, and I have two more spaces available. Once those are gone, they'll be gone for good. And I don't know when I'll be opening up those one-on-one sessions again. So if you're interested and you want guidance about your next steps directly from your ancestors, this isn't just me telling you things. This is information that's coming directly from your ancestors that will help you with your next steps. And it will also help you look at what ancestral stories are blocking your signal from you being able to really connect with your ancestors and which ones may be holding you back from being able to take that next step in your life. This is a one-on-one session, you and I, for 90 minutes. You'll be able to ask the questions that you want to ask of your ancestors. And as a bonus, you'll also find out which ancestor in your family lineage is walking with you right now to help you with your ancestral medicine. So if you're interested in one of those last two slots, then you can just put Conjure in the comments and I'll give you some information. You will have also received it through some emails that I've sent out. For those of you on Facebook, just put Conjure in the chat and I'll send you a link for those last two slots. So there we go. And then our next thing is Zoom. For those of you who are on Zoom, I always encourage people to join us here on Zoom. Those of you who are on Zoom, after we finish, I usually stay on for a bit and give you an opportunity to ask some questions. If you would like to join us in the future or next week on Zoom, type Zoom in the comments on Facebook. For those of you already here, you'll be receiving the link every week. So welcome and thank you. And then the last thing I want to share before we jump in is that the replay is always available on my YouTube channel, and I make that available on Thursdays. And for those that are watching in the Facebook or who are watching in Facebook group, Ancestrally Rooted Living, that replay will be in there for, I think Facebook allows us to keep it in there for 30 days. So the replay will be available in there as well. Okay, so today, I want to speak directly to the part of you that has been seeking clarity. The part of you that really wants guidance, but feels like nothing you're hearing is coming through clearly. Like for some reason, you're just not hearing it clearly. So today, the title of this conversation is You're Not Clear why you're not clear, why you're not clear, even though the guidance is there. So, why you are not clear, even though the guidance is there. And you're not always unclear because you're doing something wrong. A lot of times people think because I'm not receiving that intuitive guidance or the guidance from my ancestors, I'm doing something wrong. I'm not really doing it right. And you're not necessarily unclear because you're not intuitive enough, or maybe not spiritual enough, or you're not wise enough. Sometimes the guidance is there, you're just not hearing it. And the deeper issue is that the signal is being interfered with. It's like you and your ancestors are not quite on the same frequency. You and your inner guidance are not quite on the same frequency. And when the signal is being interrupted or interfered with, you may feel like you're kind of going in circles, even though something true is really trying to reach you and you can feel it trying to reach you, but for some reason you just aren't able to tap in. And last week, I shared a story with you about when I received clear guidance and I didn't listen. And I talked myself out of what I heard, and I chose what looked right on paper, and I paid a price for ignoring it, a big price. So this week, I want to share with you what happened. It's sort of another moment in that story. What happened when I did listen and how it actually saved my life. So what happened for me is I was on the job that I said I wasn't going, that I was told not to take, but I decided to go ahead and take it. I was on the job. And one morning before sunrise, I was on that 90-minute commute, the one that I mentioned last time that was supposed to be 30 minutes. And after I took the job, it ended up being 90 minutes one way. Well, there was really dense fog. The fog was so thick that it looked like split pea soup on my windshield. So if you've ever had split pea soup, just imagine that being smeared all over the windshield and you're trying to see. You know that moment where you grip the steering wheel, you lean in and you turn down the sound, the music, or whatever you're listening to because you think that's going to help you see better? Well, that's where I was. I couldn't see the lines on the freeway clearly. I could not clearly see the cars beside me, the cars in front of me, behind me. I couldn't see anything. And in the middle of the fog, as I'm driving along slowly, I heard this soft voice that told me to roll down the window. Now, we're rolling down the window. I'm on the freeway. It's cold. It's foggy. And I'm thinking, why do I need to roll down the window? And then it hit me. You didn't listen last time. You better listen this time. So this time I listened. After I rolled the window down, within seconds, I heard metal on metal hitting. And then I felt this guide to just pull over. Even though I didn't know if it was going to be safe for me to pull over, whether I was going to be on the side of the road, if I was still in the right lane. I had never been in fog like this before in my entire life. And so I really didn't know where I was pulling over to, but I decided to trust the information that was coming through. And I moved over to the side of the road, or what I hoped was the side of the road. I slowed down and then I stopped. And then I felt this sense of comfort as I listened to cars hitting each other and the sound of brakes and, rubber, and it was horrible. And what I realized is by listening to those messages, I had just missed a multi-car pileup. Now, fortunately, no one was injured, not or killed. I mean, there were some people that were injured, but no life-altering injuries from what I understand. There were no people that died in that accident. And I was completely safe. I wasn't in the accident. My car was safe. Everything was safe. And what I realized is that day, the fog lifted in more ways than one, because as daylight started to come through, the fog started lifting. But it wasn't just the fog on the freeway that began to lift, it was the fog inside of me. And I didn't realize that I had been so foggy for so long. And that experience really made something very clear for me, something that I couldn't really see clearly with my natural eye. And that was guidance was always available to me. And when I followed it, it protected me. And that day, I made a plan to secure another opportunity that was more aligned with my soul and my calling. And within a matter of a few weeks, I actually was offered something that was no longer in alignment with the career that I had studied for and gone to school for in the engineering field. It was now more along the lines of helping people and doing some of the things that I do now. And I was able to launch into that. And that story has stayed with me because it reveals something I know many of you may be experiencing. Guidance doesn't always come when conditions feel perfect. It doesn't always come when the conditions are perfect. It does not always come when you have full visibility. It doesn't always come when everything around you feels calm and easy. Sometimes guidance comes right in the middle of the fog. Sometimes it comes when you can't fully see the next steps. I know how many of us like to know what's the full picture. We want to know what's the end game. But sometimes we don't get the steps when we really want to know the end game. So the next 10 steps are not always available to you. Sometimes it comes as just this soft knowing inside of you, a quiet nudge, maybe a dream that you had, a feeling that comes over your body, a repeated message, or a clear no, don't take it, which was my case, or a steady yes. And many times, what makes you feel unclear is not the absence of the guidance, it's that the conditions around you are often noisy. It's that sometimes fear is talking to you, or old stories are talking to you. Grief may be coming up and talking to you. Overthinking is talking. So, what was clear in one moment becomes cloudy in the next, not because guidance disappears, but because the interference gets louder and louder and louder. especially when you're at a point where you need to make a decision and all of these things start talking to you and talking you out of what doesn't necessarily look the best on paper. And some of you may have said to yourself, I felt it, but I didn't trust it. I knew, but I talked myself out of it. I heard it, but then I started doubting myself. What are some of the things, just kind of think to yourself, what are some of the things you've said to yourself when you realize the guidance was there, but you didn't follow it? Or another thing that may happen, I've had people tell me this before. They were driving along and something told them to get off at a different exit than they would normally take. And they got off at that exit, and when they got home, they heard that there was an accident or there was a backup of some type that they avoided by getting off the freeway at an earlier exit. If you had any of those experiences, just pop a yes. Yes, if you've had those experiences where later on you realize, I didn't follow it. Yes, yes. I think we've all had those experiences where we just didn't follow the guidance, and we found out later that we should have, or we followed it and we found out, wow, that was a really good thing. Yeah, beautiful. A lot of yeses. And what I realize is that there's so many things that can interfere with your clarity. Fear can interfere with the signal. Grief, as I mentioned, can interfere with the signal. Self-doubt can interfere with the signal. Sometimes over responsibility, feeling like you have to take on the responsibility of everything and everyone, that can interfere. And the other thing that can interfere are inherited ancestral stories. Those stories can interfere with the signal. If your lineage is carrying stories of abandonment, betrayal, survival, silence, scarcity, grief, maybe even punishment for standing out, those stories can actually shape how it feels and how safe you feel and how well you're able to trust what you receive. So sometimes the issue is not that you're disconnected from wisdom. The issue is that your system has learned to question, suppress, or mistrust what comes through. And I hear this so often from people that I meet with and talk to. They don't trust that what they're receiving is real, or they begin to question it. They question it, they suppress it. And this matters because many of you are blaming yourselves for what is a signal problem. It's not that you're in some cases, you may be intentionally not paying attention, right? Like I did. But in many cases, the signal has been interfered with, therefore, you're not receiving the information. So then you think that you need more classes, more workshops, more another book to read, another strategy. Something else needs to happen in order for you to know what your next steps are and to receive that guidance from your ancestors, your guides, your angels, and from your inner authority. But often the deeper need is not more information. It's not another class. It's not a new strategy. It's not another coaching session. The deeper need is clear, and to clearly understand what is interfering with that discernment, what is interfering with that signal that's coming through. That's what you need more guidance on. That's what you need more information about. What is blocking the signal, keeping you from being able to hear what your ancestors are saying to you, what your intuition is telling you? And not only blocking you from hearing it, but once you do hear it, there's oftentimes a signal problem that's blocking you from trusting it. And I hear that all the time. People saying, I got the information, but I just wasn't sure if it was right because it looked different than I thought it was supposed to be, or I wasn't sure if people would approve of it. Yeah, we're going to stop that. We're going to stop that. We're going to really connect with this guidance that helps us know what our next steps are. And we're going to open up that signal so that we can hear it. So there's another thing that I want to share, and I think this is really important to understand. Fear often feels urgent. It's tight, it's pressuring, it's loud, it's repetitive. Noise often feels scattered, overwhelming, like too many voices are talking at once. It's like confusion layered on top of confusion. True guidance feels different. It may not always be comfortable, but it's usually cleaner, more grounded, more direct, more simple. Just like that simple message that I received. Don't take it. Didn't say don't take the job. That soft voice said, and that woke me up in the middle of the night about the job, said, don't take it. It's usually very simple. So sometimes true guidance tells you something you don't want to hear. I didn't want to hear not to take that job. It looked like it was great on paper. It looked like, it was going to be very aligned. But even then, there's often this steadiness to it. I felt like it was a really grounded message for me. But like I said, everything looked good on paper. And when we receive the guidance, it doesn't usually come with chaos. It comes with this truth. It comes with this feeling that it's right for you. And that morning that I experienced that fog on my drive, the guidance wasn't loud. There wasn't this loud voice. It was soft, but it was very clear. Roll down the window, pull over, and those are the things that I did. It didn't ask me to figure out the whole situation, what was happening, what was going on. It just gave me the next step. First step was roll down the window. The next step was then pull over. That is another important truth. Guidance doesn't always give you the whole map. And I know that those of us who have been leaders and have led families and organizations and had businesses, we like the full map. But guidance doesn't always work that way. And that's where trust becomes so important. Because sometimes it just gives you the next step. And the next right step is usually enough. And this matters so much when we're in our second act, because this is often the season when you know you can't keep living on autopilot. You've lived, you've worked, you've led, you've cared for others, you've carried responsibility, and now something deeper is asking to be heard. You know that there's like this another level of truth and peace and alignment calling and available to you. But if that signal is distorted, you can stay stuck, overthinking, hesitating, and in self abandonment. You can feel the call and then you still don't move. You know something is off, but you keep pushing and pushing and staying on the same course. You can hear the whisper and you still let fear overrule it. This is why clarity is not just about information, it's about connection, discernment, trust, and healing that has been interfering with this signal. That healing will help you be able to clear the signal and be on the same frequency with your guides. So when the signal begins to clear, something begins to shift. You stop chasing answers and going in circles. You begin to trust what you know. You feel more peace in your decisions. You hear what is true for this season far more clearly than you did before. You stop needing constant external confirmation. Is this right? Am I doing this right? Let me see if this is how other people are doing it. You don't need that anymore. This is when inner authority begins to grow. Not because you suddenly know everything, but because you are no longer abandoning what you are receiving. You begin to understand that you don't need to fully have everything in place and have the next step just totally visible to you. You need a clear connection to truth, and that is a very different way to live. And that's exactly why I'm creating Conjure Guidance. Conjure Guidance is a new 6-week experience for people who are ready to reconnect with ancestral wisdom. Clear what's blocking you, clear what's blocking the guidance coming through, and strengthen trust in what you receive. This is for you if you know your next step won't come from noise. It won't come from studying. It won't come from a new strategy, but you need it to come from a very grounded, clear place. And it will. It will come from a clear connection to wisdom and discernment and truth. And so if this speaks to you, we're not ready to launch yet. We're just working on this now. But if you want to be among the first to receive the information when this does go live, there will be a limited number of spaces for this program. If you're interested, what I want you to do is just type guidance or send me a DM. And I'll make sure that you get on the list to hear about this program when it launches. This is not a commitment to join at this point. This is just a commitment to looking at it to see if it's something that will work for you when we actually send out the information. And you'll be the first to get it. And there'll also be probably some little bonuses for those of you who are on the wait list. So guidance in the comments, the chat, or send me a DM or send me an email. For those of you who are listening on Zoom, you received an email with the link. You can just hit reply to that email and let me know that you're interested. Yeah, beautiful. Okay. So I want to just close with this. You're not necessarily unclear because guidance is absent. The guidance is there. It's always there. The ancestors are always there. They're always guiding us. Your intuition is always there. Your spirit guides are always there. The angels are always there and aligning with you and working with you. You just may not be able to hear it. You may be unclear because a signal has been interfered with. And the good news is that signal can be cleared. You can reconnect. You can discern more clearly. You can trust what you receive, and you can move forward with more peace. Even in the fog, guidance is still available. Even when you're not clear, even when you feel like everything is in chaos, even when you feel like there's no direction, guidance is still available. We just need to make sure that your signal is cleared enough so that you can hear it. Because sometimes the next step is actually all you need. You don't need all of the things, everything all aligned, and the map, and the big picture, and the big vision. Sometimes you just need the next step. And the next step oftentimes will open you up to all of the other possibilities. It'll become, as you take each step, your destination becomes clearer and clearer. So just the next step. And I want to thank you for being here with me today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If this resonated with you, tell me what stood out to you. What stood out to you? And if you want to hear once again about Conjure Guidance first, send me a DM or type guidance in the chat. I want to leave this with you. And for those of you who are on Facebook, I will come back afterwards and take a look at your comments and respond. So feel free to do that. If you're listening to the replay, just type replay. I want to leave you with this one thing. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. You don't always need full visibility. You just need a clearer signal. And this is the time to clear that signal. Our ancestresses, the women in our family lineage, have been saying for the last 5 years that they are rising to support us. The women who may not have been able to use their natural gifts and abilities in the ways that we can now are rising to support us with activating that natural ancestral medicine that is inside of us. And now is the time to clear the signal so we can hear the messages. Clear the signal now so we can hear the messages. Once again, I want to thank you for being here. And if you are on Zoom, hang out with me a little bit longer and you'll have an opportunity to ask questions. For those of you who are listening on Facebook and eventually would like to come and join us on Zoom, just type Zoom in the comments and I'll be sure that you get the link to do that. Enjoy the rest of your day, evening, night, wherever you are in the world. For those on Zoom, just stay with me a little bit longer and we will get to our Q&A. Bye for now. Okay. I am going to